Hello everyone, welcome to the Watchtower, and today we have my most recent read. Event Leviathan review is coming up after this. Like I was saying everyone, today I'm going to be doing a graphic novel review of my most recent read, Event Leviathan. This is by Brian Michael Bendis with artwork by Alec Maleev. I enjoyed this story. Well, I liked the idea of it, the concept of it, a little bit more than the execution. There was some issues I had with the execution of it, but the concept, brilliant. Love the concept of it. So basically the concept is, in a matter of moments, every espionage organization in the DC universe is taken out. I'm talking about the DEO, Spiral, Argus, Task Force X, Cobra. All of them instantaneously at the same time are taken out by a mysterious force. So Lois Lane and Batman assemble a team of the greatest detectives in the DC universe to figure out who took out all of these espionage units, organizations, instantaneously. And it leads them to an individual called Leviathan. And the whole gist of the story is trying to figure out who Leviathan is, what his endgame is. Super, super awesome concept. Love the concept of it. Execution we had a little bit of issues with, which we'll get into, because I'm going to do my pros, my cons, and then I'll give it an overall score. So, right off the bat, jumping into it, the pros. My first pro that I had is the villain's motivation. I absolutely loved the villain's motivation. Leviathan in this, he thinks that governments are not helping people anymore and they should be helping people, but they're not. They're more interested in themselves, staying in power, doing all these different things, protecting the status quo. And he sees it as this big issue, and he feels like he needs to burn the world down and something new needs to be risen up in its place. And I think that motivation, it's so it's not evil, kind of. He wants what's best for humanity, and he thinks that the government doesn't have people's best interests in mind, which there can be a case made for that. And it's almost like Brian Michael Bendis can see the future or something, because kind of a lot of stuff that's touched on this book is kind of stuff we're kind of dealing with right now with everything, politically and stuff. So it's kind of like Brian Michael Bendis can see in the future. But if he could, that would be crazy. I feel like he would warn us about COVID-19 and stuff like that if he could actually see the future. Unless he can only observe, he can't interfere with the timeline. That would be a way. Brian Michael Bendis might be able to see the future. Or he's a time traveler. That'd be something. Maybe. Who knows? You never know. Time travel. You don't know. So, where was I? Anyway, yeah, the villain's motivation. So I loved it, and he sees that heroes, the way that they go about things, superheroes, hasn't helped anything, hasn't changed anything. But he doesn't want to get rid of superheroes. He believes in superheroes. He thinks that they want to do the greater good. He's giving them an opportunity to join him, or he goes out of his way to not hurt superheroes. So just the villain motivations, I really, really liked. I felt they made sense. In his mind, he was, the good guy. He was doing what was right, and that's what you need in a good villain. You need them to think that they're doing the right thing. So, love the villain motivation. Second thing that I really liked, use of secondary characters in this. So this is basically Lois Lane and Batman's story. They're in a majority of it. But there's a group of detectives, superhero detectives, that they gather around them to help solve this case. Robin, Manhunter, The Question, Green Arrow, and Plastic Man. I thought that the use of secondary characters was so good. I really like when stories shine a light on secondary characters who don't get as big a shine as usually, especially those really smaller characters. I love that so much. Because this is, obviously, Batman, Lois Lane, Superman. They're gonna get people to buy the book. But I love when you can take smaller secondary characters and give them a spotlight and really do a really good job with them. The Question, I've been a fan of The Question since DC the Animated Series when he was in that. It was really nice to see him to get some light shined on him and really just show him. Love seeing The Question there. He and Brian Michael Bendis did a really good job writing and everything and made him interesting. And gave him some really good moments to shine. Plastic Man, always nice seeing Plastic Man and stuff. He's, of course, the comic relief in this, as he is in a lot of stuff. But really nice job with Plastic Man. Really nice job with Green Arrow. Liked what he did with Green Arrow a lot. So well done. And then, obviously, the bigger characters, well, they're in there. What can you say about them? It's, they drive the book and everything. So, but the use of secondary characters, so well done. And also Manhunter, having her in there. Haven't seen Manhunter in the DC universe for a while, so her pop back up. I really like that, and kind of tweaked the Manhunter lore and everything a little bit and changed some stuff, so I actually dug that as well. So yeah, lots of really good stuff. My last pro that I have is the art, so this is going to be interesting because the art is a pro, but it's also a con for me. And I'll get to the con part of it in a minute. But for right now, the art by Alex Maleev, I hope that I'm saying his last name right, but Alex Maleev is so great. It's very... So this is very much this is a detective noir based story, and his art for this is perfect for it. It feels like the color palette, the shadows, just the grittiness of it, it feels like a noir detective story. It was the perfect choice getting him for it. I don't know if this is his first DC work or not. I'm not super familiar with him. I know that he's worked with Brian Michael Bendis on a lot of Marvel stuff, Daredevil and stuff like that, which I don't really read Marvel stuff, but absolutely loved their stuff together in this. My cons now. First con, the art. On the flip side of that, there are two issues in this, two chapters in this book that are drawn each by a different artist. And I'm not sure who the artists are, but each one has a very different style from each other and then from Alex Maleev, so it's very jarring. And I know because Alex Maleev did the main mini-series run of this, and then those two issues are from the Supergirl comic and I believe Action Comics. And they put those issues in because they told part of the story. And it was just very jarring, especially at the beginning, to have certain kind of artwork, and then Alex Maleev, which was very different style than the first art, was very bright and colorful and poppy, and it's very superhero-ish. And then Alex Maleev, which was completely different. So I hate when there's a shift in artwork. It's very noticeable. We're two very different style of artists. So that was on the flip side of my pro of the art. My con of also the art was the changing in art styles. I do not like that when that happens. Other con. The start of the story is a little hard to follow. So the beginning of the story, they jump around quite a bit, and it's also taking stuff from other issues of comic books. Like I said before, Supergirl and Action Comics. The Superman stuff is necessary to follow. You do need that. The even though it was a little bit I don't read Action Comics or whatever, so some of the stuff they were talking about, I had no idea what was going on. But some of it was necessary to follow the through thread, because I guess the whole Leviathan thing started in Action Comics. He's been planting the seeds, so they need that. The Supergirl stuff, I don't see why they had that in there at all. I didn't feel it was needed. I read it and I didn't understand pretty much any of the stuff that was happening in the Supergirl stuff. It never plays a part in the main Event Leviathan story or anything, unlike the Superman stuff, which does play back, but the Supergirl stuff never shows up in the main story. She doesn't show up. The stuff that she's like looking at or whatever and dealing with does not show up in the main Leviathan story. So I do not understand why that was in there. So that's a con. A little hard to follow at the beginning if you're not reading all these different stuff. My other con, and my last one, it took some time to find some of the characters' voices. Oh, for a lot of the characters, right off the bat, absolutely perfect characterization. You could tell, like, the characters were unique. They sound like themselves. Question unique. Plastic Man unique. There's an issue with Red Hood in it, and you can definitely tell it's Red Hood. Such a great job with Red Hood in that. Lois Lane unique, Superman unique, Batman unique. There's some of them that I couldn't tell, like if there was just the words there and no characters and I couldn't see the character, they could just swap that dialogue in for anybody. Some of Batman stuff was like that. Green Arrow at the very beginning of it was very generic, and I couldn't there wasn't any like characterization. It was like he was just there to at the very beginning to just like spout exposition and everything, and really couldn't tell his characterization. He didn't seem like Green Arrow to me. Robin a little bit at the beginning was very generic and wasn't quite Robin that we're used to, Damian Wayne Robin, being snarky and everything. Very just very like I said, you could have taken his dialogue and Green Arrow's dialogue and you could have swapped them, and you couldn't have been able to tell one character from the other. The story wouldn't have made much sense because also why does Robin know all this information about Leviathan and stuff, and Green Arrow's like calling Batman dad, father, but what I'm saying is like you could have switched them, and besides the fact that he was calling Batman father, you knew, that was, but just some of it was very generic voices and everything, and dialogue, and you couldn't tell the different characters. Manhunter, another one, felt very generic at times, and then about 2 to 3 issues in, he really found the voice for all these different characters, and they really started to come together, and I really, really liked what he was doing with everything. So, took a while, but they started to come together. So, that's my pros, that's my cons. Overall, I like this story more in concept than I did in execution. There were, like I said, there were some issues and everything. A little bit hard to follow at times. Some of the art was it just takes me out of it when the art just shifts so like drastically. So that's always an issue for me. But overall, I really like this story. I would recommend picking it up. It's supposed to be an ongoing thing. So there was Event Leviathan, and then there's Leviathan Checkmate, which was supposed to be coming out in June, but then they re-solicited for July. But then they just completely pulled from the schedule completely, and they said it's delayed indefinitely, and it'll come back when the market's more stable. So, who knows if we'll get it at all when the market's more stable. That could be a year from now. Jeez Pete, everything that's going on. So, I mean, I'm a completionist, so I like to know the whole story. So maybe if you're like me, maybe you'll wait to pick this up until they actually release the whole story so you can see the full thing, because this is very much ends setting up the next thing. So if you're like me and you want to know the whole story, yeah, you might wait. But if not, if you want to go ahead and pick this up, I highly recommend it. I thought it was very good. There is some issues and everything, but I thought the concept is so good, it hooks you with the concept, and yeah, I really liked it. And my overall score for this, I will give this a 7 out of 10. Good, not great. Other stuff that I've read recently I liked a whole lot more, but still, This is my first, I think this is my first thing I've read by Brian Michael Bendis. So, but I really liked it. I'm looking forward to see what else he does with DC and everything now that he's over there. Hopefully they continue on with the Leviathan mystery and everything. I'm sure they will. They're not going to just throw Brian Michael Bendis' stuff away and scrap it completely when he came over and they're giving him all this money and everything. So I'm sure we'll see the end of that. But yeah, I like this, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you the next time that I log in for Monitor Duty up here in the Watchtower. See you around.